Yes, it's that time of year. Holiday preparations beginning to crowd the calendars. Special occasions planned with family and friends. And face it, we all want to look our best, especially during the holidays. Facial rejuvenation is no longer something only reserved for the stars. Both women and men are turning to facial plastic surgery to restore or maintain a more youthful appearance. The Center for Aesthetic Facial Surgery was founded by Dr. Michael Minikoff, the recipient of America's Top Physicians Award for Facial Plastic Surgery for the years 2003 through 2010. He was also named one of the top doctors in the global directory of Who's Who for 2009 and 2010. Dr. Minikoff was featured in United Airlines Sky Concierge magazine as one of the best of the best. And guess what? I got the good doctor now. He's joining me this morning. How are you?
I'm good, Denise. How are you?
It's always great to see you. And one thing we should point out for potential patients that want to come in and see you, you actually do work plastic surgery to the face and neck. Why is that? Why do you only focus there?
That's right. Well, it's a statistical issue. 90% of the cosmetic surgery done in the United States today is breast augmentation and body liposuction. So the good plastic surgeons around town, they're spending 90% of their time doing those two procedures, which means 10% of the time doing everything else, which means probably 5% of the time in the face and neck. I'm a facial plastic surgeon, a head and neck surgeon, and although it makes me tired when I think about it, I'm from here to here, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and it's been like that for 20 years. The face is an incredibly complex, complicated, sophisticated area, and the learning curve for the procedures, it's really, really long. I had a professor, a very, very well-known rhinoplasty professor when I was a resident in San Francisco, and I'd taken him pictures of my 10th rhinoplasty, before and after pictures. I thought it turned out great, and showed him the pictures, told him what my thought process was and what I'd done to do that. And he looked at the pictures and he looked at me and he said, Mike, you're really not going to understand how to do a rhinoplasty until you've done about 500. And at the time I thought, wow, what an arrogant guy. And he was kind of an arrogant guy. But his point was that the learning curve is just really long. And although I thought that my 10th rhinoplasty was pretty good, when I hit that 500 range, all of a sudden things started making sense that hadn't made sense before. And my 500th was better than my 100th. My 1,000th was better than my 500th. Now I'm into the several thousands, and they're getting better and better all the time. So the learning curve is really long, and it's just something that takes a long time to get there. It takes a lot of practice, and because I'm from here to here all the time, I get a lot of practice.
So that's really important that you focus right there, but also you mentioned 20 years. You've been here in Denver for 20 years.
Right. Yeah, it's, people in Colorado are different than people in Beverly Hills or New York, which, of course, is one of the reasons why we live here. People in Beverly Hills or Manhattan and New York, they're really looking oftentimes to make a statement. They're getting their facial plastic surgery done. They're getting it done by a certain doc because they want people to know, I had facial plastic surgery, and I had it done by this specific guy. And in order for that to work, they have to look a specific way. So it's almost a stylized kind of look. And we've seen that. We've seen, rich and famous people on TV and magazines that just don't look quite right. They had facial plastic surgery. They don't have wrinkles, but it really doesn't look right. It doesn't look young. That's not what people in Colorado are looking for. They want to look healthy. They want to look refreshed and relaxed. They want to look like a younger version of themselves. But it can't be something that looks stretched, pulled, or done.
Beautiful, yet natural.
Exactly.
And that's what you offer.
Yep.
You also specialize in the downtime. You don't want them to spend a long time at home recovering. They can get back to work and nobody knows anything was done.
Exactly. And, it's the same idea. It used to be with facial plastic surgery, it was something reserved for the rich and famous. They would have their surgery, they'd take 3 months off, and then they'd throw a party for themselves at the end where they'd kind of show themselves off. They'd invite the surgeon. So it was almost like going to an art gallery, looking at the art, and then talking to the artist that did it. But that's not what people in Colorado, that's not what my patients are looking for. They're looking for something that nobody would know that they had anything done. And they're very, they're very different in that way. It has to look natural. It has to look healthy. It can't look done. And what I tell my patients is, if you go and see your family and friends a couple weeks after surgery, and they say, boy, you look great, but the first question is, who's your surgeon? Then
that's not
I
a good
failed.
thing. It's more like you're taking good care of yourself while you look rested.
Yeah.
Let's look at some of the before and afters that you have.
One of the procedures that I do is a quick lift, which is kind of my version of a mini facelift. One of the issues with a facelift, and many of the facial plastic surgery procedures is that it's something that where there's a very long downtime afterwards. So this gal came in, didn't like the heaviness to the bottom part of her face, the sagging in her neck, the wrinkles on her skin, and she wanted something done. And that's what she said. I'd like all this taken care of. I want to look healthy. I want to look like me. I want to look relaxed and refreshed. You've got a week. And this is what we've been able to do. So instead of a 5-6 hour procedure, it's a 2-hour procedure. Feel good in a couple days. Really look pretty good at a week. This is another gal here. Same thing. Came in, jowls, a little bit older, jowls, some sagging in her neck, a little heaviness to the bottom part of her face. 2-hour procedure. Here she is a little bit over a week later, wearing a little bit more makeup than she usually does. But again, she looks like a refreshed, relaxed, healthy version of herself. And this is literally just a little bit over a week later.
Wow.
I saw a gal yesterday in the office, came in to see me at 4 o'clock. I'd done her quick lift and her eyelids 6 days ago, and she had to come in and see me at 4 o'clock yesterday because she was coming after work. So she was back to work 6 days later.
That's
People
cool.
at work thought she looked great, said, boy, that vacation did a lot for
Yeah.
you. And
Well, that
never
first
thought
picture,
she had surgery.
the first picture that we looked at, doctor, I mean, that's exactly what I'm saying. She looks tired in the first one. She looks, exhausted. And in the second one, look at that right now. In the second one, she looks refreshed. She does not look like she's stretched or pulled. She does not look like she's had anything done.
Right, and again, that's the whole idea with
Yeah.
this. And that's what people in Colorado are looking for. That's the kind of results that I like to get.
And they can see the results ahead of time because you do something that's quite different. You have computer imaging where they can see what it's going to look like before.
I do. When I first started doing this 20 years ago, I mean, it was really hard. People would come in with a big round face, and they'd bring in a picture of a famous person who had a long, skinny face and say, here's what I want to look like. Or a guy would come in with a huge nose and say, I want Johnny Depp's nose, which of course was impossible. So about 15 years ago, we started using computer imaging, where we take their picture, the patient's picture, put it on the computer, and with some pretty sophisticated imaging software, can make the changes and show them, here's what it will look like afterwards. So this was a gal that came in, thought she looked old, looked tired, just didn't feel refreshed, wasn't quite sure what she wanted done. So we put her on the computer, we imaged her, we showed her what things would look like afterwards, and that gave her an idea of what it was that what she wanted it to look like. And then she could decide, okay, these are the procedures that I want done. This is how I want it done. And because really in this business, it's all about expectations. If afterwards they're happy with what they see, then that's really what we're after. And if I can show them a picture of themselves beforehand on the computer, and they can say, yes, if I look like that, I'd be happy with that, they're going to be happy afterwards.
You make them feel confident,
Yeah.
and this is actually a patient who benefited from computer imaging before and after that we're looking at right now.
Yeah, and so it just increases, lines their expectations up with what we're going to do, and it makes sure that if we show them something on the computer and they say, well, shoot, that doesn't look as good as I really want it to, I'd much rather know that beforehand than afterwards, and if our results aren't going to give them what they want, then we don't have to do the surgery, and if the results are going to, then we know they're going to be happy afterwards.
You do excellent work and quite understanding for the patient, too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, the advances in facial plastic surgery eliminates the lengthy downtime and really gives you that natural look, and it's just in time for the holidays. Call the Center for Aesthetic Facial Surgery to schedule your complimentary initial consultation, and yes, free computer imaging. The number is 303-792-3838. And take advantage of the additional special offers exclusively for you, our Colorado and Company viewers. Book your surgery by November 30th. You're going to receive 10% off all cosmetic procedures, 10% off. And save this date, Thursday, November 11th. The Center for Aesthetic Facial Surgery will be hosting their annual Holiday Day of Beauty, when you enjoy the best prices of the season on all of Dr. Medenkoff's treatments, procedures, and products. Space is limited, so you want to book that appointment right now. 303-792-3838. 303-792-3838. If you'd like to learn more, visit the website, thefaceexperts.com, and the Center for Aesthetic Facial Surgery paid for this segment.